Hi everybody, Jarrett Volzer with TabPilot here to show you what's due in TabPilot 6.0. We'll begin with the login because that's where you'll see the first change, and that is with the new system-wide dashboard that we've built. So this will be a central place for some common system stats, and we'll expand this in future versions and add additional information, but it should be a good starting point to kind of give you a little overview of the system, and this will appear for administrators and technicians whenever they log in. The biggest change in 6.0, as you've probably read, is the new organizational method where we're working with organizations and locations all as one big account for an entire school district instead of separate accounts. But before we jump into that, there are two short other things I'll show you. One you've just seen, which is the dashboard. The other is a feature for our iOS users, and that is the ability to push out app updates. And it's pretty simple. If you go to the apps area and you click on any app, you'll see a new push app update button at the bottom. And this will send a signal out to all the devices that have that app to go out to the App Store and download a new version if one is available. Use it with a little bit of caution because if it's applying to many devices at the same time, of course, they're all going to try to download, so be aware of your bandwidth. Don't go and click this on a whole bunch of apps all at the same time. You may bottleneck your Wi-Fi there. But that is available immediately. And we will enhance it in the future, maybe make it a little bit more automated as well. We do show you here the current version in the App Store as well. So you can see Book Creator Free is at version 5.0. So that's telling you we actually just query the App Store to see what it's in its current listing as the current version. So now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and jump in and start looking at the changes that have been made with the move to the organization and location structure. So you'll see the main menu is now divided into the organization section and the location section. And basically, organization is your school district, and location is for each school within the district. We're using the more generic terms because they allow a little more flexibility. For instance, if you have a set of devices that are managed or loaned out, say from the district office, you could actually have a location called district office devices, and it would have the device groups of the devices that are from that location. So you'll also see under the organization menu, the new item is the locations menu itself, and this is where you set up and configure your location. Now, if you're in a district that has already had separate locations, we've merged them into the district for you already, or into the organization, and you'll see each one of them also has a code. I've hand coded these with the school initials, but during the conversion, we've converted yours to L1, L2, L3. You'll probably want to go in and change those. So if you click on any one of them, you'll see each location is pretty simple. The required fields are that you have to have the name and the location code. And these location codes will come into play later with things like CSV imports of students. So you'll want to make that code match what you already use in other systems in your district, like your student management system, for example. And that'll allow us to do things like match students on import if we're doing that sort of thing based on their location code. So that will be unique per location. So if we're going to create a new location, say we want that district office location, we'll just enter it here, enter a code, click Save, and now under locations, you can see we have the new location added there. Now also for each location, there is an Access Rights tab. The Access Rights tab tells you which users have access to see or manage that location. And these users will then see that as a choice on their locations menu on the left. So if I look, for example, at Valley View High School and go to the Access Rights, you'll see I've got one location admin named Bill who has rights there. Now your organizational admins, which is your main admin ID, will see all of the locations regardless, and it doesn't have to be explicitly granted to be able to manage that location. So let's move on and talk about the users area. Each user also will be assigned to one or more locations. So if I look at my Control Tower Users tab and I look at this David teacher, you see the section called Locations here, and this teacher only has access to Phillips Elementary. If we go back and look at David Technician, also access to only one location. But perhaps this technician needs to be able to manage multiple elementary schools. Well, that's as simple as assigning them to those locations by checking them off of the list. So giving a user like a technician multiple locations, that's the same thing as going to the location, for instance, and going to Westside Elementary and assigning them access rights. So you can do it from both places. If you have a new location you've created, it's easier to grant multiple users rights to it by doing it directly from the locations area, where you can select many of them off the list all at one time. On the other hand, if you're just created a user and they need multiple locations, then you might as well do it from the user's record. So in this case, again, we'll come into David Technician and give him access to multiple locations. So it's the same thing, two different ways of accessing it, and the difference will be based on whether you're doing it in bulk one way or the other. So let's move on to the device groups area. Device groups, again, also assigned to a location. Each device group belongs to only one location. So I will look at my 10th grade iPads, and under device group details, you'll see that that is a device group at Valley View High School. When we are creating a device group, that's one of the first things you'll do is you'll select the location from the list here and then fill in the rest of the information for that device group. So this is similar to the previous version in the sense that all devices only belong to one group, and now we also have that each device group belongs to only one location. You do have the ability to move devices between locations, so you can reallocate them between schools, and be aware that licensing is much more flexible now because your licensing is at the district level. So you don't have to worry about if you're moving devices between schools, which schools have how many licenses in TabPilot. It doesn't matter. All locations pull their licensing from a common pool at the district level. Let's move on to network profiles. Network profiles can be applied at the organization level. So you can see everything under this organization menu has the advantage of being able to take effect district-wide or organization-wide. So now when I create a network profile and I come over to the Group Assignment tab, I can choose to apply it at all locations within the district. So this is useful again for a common, say you have a common SSID for all student networks in the district. You can now assign it to all of the locations at once without creating it for every location individually. The same is true for restriction profiles. You'll see under restriction profiles, we can go to Group Assignment, and we have this nice little filter at the top to let me choose to show the ones only at a specific location, or I can choose all locations together. And then when I choose Assign and Apply, I'm going to see all of the restrictions that can be applied to all of the groups if I choose to do that. So again, everything under the organization menu has that advantage of going organization-wide. Whereas when we move down to the location menu, this is where we're keeping things separate school by school, and this will keep things much more simplified. It's kind of what you're used to now with having separate locations to where each one can be managed independently and not, these are areas where you don't really want to see the clutter of everything district-wide. So for example, web links are very rarely going to be shared district-wide. So we chose to put that under the locations menu so that each school creates their own, and you'll never have a cluttered list with every web link created by every teacher in every class in the entire district in one place. It just made sense to put certain things at the location level. So when you have a login ID that has access to multiple locations, you choose that from this list, and then you access those items under the appropriate menu. So for instance, now I'm looking at Adams Street Middle School apps. I can very easily switch over and look at Eastside Elementary apps, and they remain separate there, along with the device group assignments. So we'll start with screen layouts, and you'll see that each of these looks identical to what you had in versions prior to 6.0. The only difference is that you can switch between locations on this menu. Even teachers can be granted access to multiple locations. So if they teach at 2 locations and need to manage devices there, they'll be able to see the device groups at those locations in their teacher tools or in the content area, for example. Classes is the same way, looks identical over on the right. We'll talk a little bit more about apps because this also ties in for our iOS users to your VPP accounts. So what I didn't show you up in the organization area, we kind of skipped over settings because I wanted to tie it directly to apps. The settings apply organization-wide, but when we look at something like VPP, we can have multiple VPP accounts and they can be assigned so that they can only be used at specific locations. So some of them can be used district-wide, some may be only at specific locations. So I've created one, this main district VPP, and it has rights to all locations. I'm going to give it rights to that new district office location that I created earlier. However, if we look at this elementary VPP account, it can only be used in the elementary schools. If I look at this, I called it music department account. This is only for the music department at Valley View High School. So that's the only place that these apps can be assigned. So how does that look when you move into the apps area? Well, when we're looking at the iOS location apps list, and this used to be called school apps. Remember, we're just substituting the word school for location. So when I'm looking at my list and I click Add App, I can choose from whichever VPP accounts have been assigned for that location. So in this case, I'm looking at Eastside Elementary. It can only access the district VPP account and the elementary VPP account. And when I switch between them, I see the apps that are in either one of them, and I can add that. On the other hand, if I go to Valley View High School and I'm looking at the location apps and I click Add, now I see the main district VPP, but now I see the one for the music department, and I don't see the one for the elementary school. So this will give you a lot of flexibility, whether it's a department app or account, or particularly with paid apps maybe that were purchased from Title I funding, and that are only available in certain locations. You can do that. So the next question might be, what if an app exists in both in multiple VPP accounts, but it's a paid app and I only want certain licensing to apply? Again, with funding that has to be restricted, this might be the case. So let's just use an example. Let's go to Eastside Elementary here, and let's add an app. Let's assume Class Dojo is a paid app, and I purchased some at the district level and some at the elementary level. So I'm going to go ahead and add it from the elementary account. And there it is. Then I'm going to click Add again, and this time I'm going to add it from the district account. What that does is it makes it appear twice in the table here. You can see from the source column which account it came from. That allows you to assign it to the appropriate device groups and classes. So this copy, which I forgot to look which one that was the main district one. So I could take this one and I could assign it to Cart A. And the second one, which maybe was purchased out of special Title I funding or something for a specific department, I could maybe assign it just to a class. I don't have any classes in this particular school, but you could create a class that has just those students or just those student devices that are allowed to use that particular paid app. So you should find this very useful. I know this is something that we've had multiple requests for, and this should do very good at organizing apps that are particularly paid apps that are purchased from different VPP accounts. And then this, of course, the same thing would be true from books. It's the exact same structure. You click Add a book, you're going to see whichever VPP accounts are allowed to be used at that location. Okay, moving along, we'll look at a couple other little tidbits. We do have a little bit of an improvement in the screen layouts area. And what the change here is one that came from some requests in our wish list forum. So thanks to those of you who are participating on the support site in the feature requests area. That's how we get some great ideas and some feedback. So I hope everybody that hasn't been participating there will take a look and vote up the ideas that you like. That's how we kind of help prioritize them. You click the thumbs up icon there, or give us your new ideas. But one of them was the ability to rearrange the screens. So now it's just a matter of dragging and dropping it, which you can do down here at the bottom. So now my screen that has the 2 icons appears as screen 1, and the one with 4 icons appears as screen 2. So if I add another screen here and drag an icon to it, and I say, oh, well, I did that, but I want it in the screen 2 position, I just drag it over and drop it into place there. I think I also skipped through the settings area without showing you permissions. So along with changing the wording where we're calling a school a location and a district an organization, these top 2 user roles have been renamed as well. So what used to be the main admin or just admin is now called an organization admin, and this is the role. Someone in this role has access to everything in the system and all locations. The school level admin is now called location admin, and then of course your teachers and technicians. So just a way in a change in the naming, but you still have access to all the same permissions that you can assign them to in this menu. I think the only change in terms of new permissions are going to be the first item under General, where it says Manage Locations, and that will just, for those that would be in a technician or admin role other than organizational admin, that just enables or disables this locations menu over on the right to be able to do the adding and changing of the code and things like that on the locations. So that should cover the new items in TabPilot 6.0. Look for more to come, and certainly send us whatever questions you have. Appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and catch up on the new features.